Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Brothas-in-law. It's your boy Corey Taylor here, and tonight I'm joined again with my brother from another mother, Mr. Michael Bradley. Welcome.
Hey. What's
Welcome
going
back.
on?
Oh, another day in paradise, living the dream. You know how we do.
Yeah.
This evening, folks, we have another good show to break down, or video, I should say, to break down for you. This is about a young black teenager. Actually, he's like 18 years old. Uh, got arrested in front of his house by the police. This occurred in the city, or in Texas, not exactly sure of the city, back on November 5th of 2020. Mike brought this video up and thought it'd be a good one for us to break down. So we're going to break it down together. And as usual, if you got questions, go ahead, put them in the comments, and we'll get it on screen and we'll talk about it. But before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new, checking us out. Every Thursday, 8 o'clock, we come out with a live, or sometime we might do a pre-recording based on our schedule. You know, we do this in our spare time. So we, even though we both are retired, but, you know, we still have lives to live as well. But every Thursday, no matter if it's recorded or live, we come out with a new video. So please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, please jump over to YouTube and smash that like button over on there. That helps us out with the algorithm and enables us to get more views and get our message out there more across the nation and throughout the world. So I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I think
like share,
that lines it up.
So,
that takes care.
I know, right?
Thank everybody for joining us. I'm starting to like this live because it gives us a chance to look at questions right on the spot and answer
and get more of the people involved. You know, this is what it's all about. You know, Mike and I are both prior law enforcement. Mike did 26 years in Pleasanton, California, as an officer. I was a former Virginia State Trooper. I did 7 years. We both also prior military. Mike did 6 years in the Army, and I did 21 years in the Navy. So we bring a lot to the table, and we also happen to be Black officers, giving you Black officers' perspective on these shooting incidents that occur in our community, and also try to give you insight on what reasonable officers would do in these types of situations. And if the shooting is wrong, believe us, we're going to tell you it was wrong.
Absolutely. So if it was excessive, we'll tell you if it was excessive. You may not always agree with what we say, but we're just trying to be as neutral as possible here to tell you, would we have done that or not? As simple as that.
As simple as that.
Can we see something happening like that or not? That's all.
Right. So, like I said, this incident here occurred back in November of last year. I don't know how we just now found out about this, but it took place in Texas. A young boy, teenager, I think he was 18 years old.
Yeah, he was 18.
Had a traffic violation. Failed to stop from the police. He goes home and tries to get out and run into the house. And so we're gonna show that video. What we'll do, we'll just show the video. It's 6 minutes and 23 seconds. We'll reserve our comments. We want you to see it, and then we'll break it down from there. So I'm gonna go ahead
and for those who are sensitive to certain things, you're gonna see some things here that might be disturbing to you. It might be a little sensitive for you. It might be a little hard for you to watch. So just put that out there before we hit play.
All right. Can you see the screen, Mike?
Yeah, I can see it. It's up there.
Okay. All right, y'all. Here we go.
So this is viewed from their home security camera.
Yeah.
Bro, chill. What are y'all fucking doing? Dad! Dad! Stop resisting, dude. Stop resisting. Dad! You're under arrest right now. You want to stand up? You're under arrest. Turn the fuck around. Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Dad! Hey, sir. You understand that? Calm down. Everybody calm down. I'm sorry. Yes, I did. I did. You better relax. You're gonna get it next. I promise you will. What is he gonna get next?
And so here's from the beginning of it.
Okay, from the pursuit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey! Show me your hand! Show me your hand! You got on the ground! You got on the ground! Dad! Dad! Get on the ground. I'm on the ground. Dad! Step on the ground, dude! Bro, chill. What are y'all doing? Dad! Dad! Stop resisting, dude. Stop resisting. Dad! You're under arrest right now. You understand that? You're under arrest. Turn the around. Put your hands behind your back. Dad! Dad! Okay. Get on the ground. Hey, sir. Calm down. Everybody calm down. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you see now they worried about the dad trying to jump in here.
Right.
And we don't know what he's going to try to do, but hopefully he doesn't do anything lovely. But
so I'm gonna share a story before we break this down, Mike.
Okay.
So, all right, we'll stop it right here, Mike.
All right.
Because it's pretty much up. Now, my story. I was working midnight shift. I was headed back to the office. Actually, no, I wasn't. That was my next stop. I was actually headed to go get me a cup of coffee on midnight shift. And I was headed back towards the office. Guy comes flying off the interstate. I took off the exit ramp, and I started pacing him, and he was speeding. So I lit him up, which means I activated my lights and sirens, and he pulls into a hotel. I think it was like a Red Roof Inn. Mm-hmm. And he circles around the parking lot maybe 3 or 4 times. And he was on his cell phone, so I'm guessing he was trying to figure out what room he was trying to get to. And so he gets back around, and he stops the car and gets out and starts running. Well, I don't carry a taser. So what do you think I did to him? I ain't pull my gun. We went hands up. I snatched his behind up and put him down on the ground. Right? When you have situations like this, I cannot let you get into that room or into that house. Right? Reason being is I don't know what's behind there.
Right. A lot of safety issues there.
A lot of safety issues. So
safety issues on the part of the officers. We don't know. We got to get you. So you don't know what's, like you said, Corey, you don't know what's behind that door.
Right.
You don't know what's going on with this person trying to flee from you.
Right. You don't know what really transpired when somebody doesn't. And this, you go back to our early videos. When you don't stop, a lot of red flags go off for an officer.
Yes.
And y'all can be mad if you want to, but this is the real of it. This is why we try to explain to y'all and teach everyone about staying calm. And the first letter in that is complying. Right? When this young man saw those lights and sirens going off behind him, he should have stopped. You don't go back home. You don't try to run. At that point, it is now here in Virginia, it is now a felony. Because now I have to pursue you because you are failing to stop for whatever that traffic violation is. Right? You don't go home. Just because you go back to your house doesn't mean that it stops. Because I don't know what you did. I don't know why you running. Why are you failing to stop? Did you just commit an armed robbery? Did you hurt somebody? Murder somebody?
Yeah.
What's going on?
And you know what? You know what though, Corey? You know what I think? I think in this case, I believe this 18-year-old when he says he was afraid of what was going to happen if he stopped. I actually believe it. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Because the way the media is portraying the law enforcement today, it has gotten a whole new generation of young folks actually doing the wrong thing out of fear. And that's why we want to try to at least tell you what you need to be doing, whether you're afraid or not, and what is going on in an officer's mind on some of the things that you might do that would cause certain things. It's my understanding this kid initially it was a red light violation. It was a traffic violation. They were going to pull him over. Most that would have happened is giving him a ticket.
Get a ticket.
Let him go. You see what I'm saying? But for some reason, because he has this fearful perception of police, he allowed that fearful perception to cause him to do something that was grossly wrong, which is, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to try to get home and try to run into the house before they can get me. You see what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that you have a lot of young folks who feel or think that way, which is going to cause them to make a lot of bad decisions when dealing with police. Okay?
Yeah. You can't let something like that, whatever's going on in society, you can't let that be your reality, because you have to take in the whole totality of what that other person had done to cause them to get into altercation with police. If you're doing your part, and that is staying calm, complying, answer questions, listening, moving on, then there's no reason for you to end up like that. Right. His actions
caused this whole ball to roll. Right. They really did. They really did.
You can't, I mean, even if you thinking, you were drinking and driving and you think you just going, well, I'll just go home and make it back to the house and get into my driveway. They can't get me. Wrong. You can get got.
Yeah. They got to understand that it's very important to, when you see those flashing lights behind you, pull over and stop. It's not enough to say, I'm in a dark area and I'm afraid to pull over. Even if you were in a dark area, you can't just keep driving forever until you find a place that you feel is lit up. You see what I'm saying? Because that officer might think you're trying to flee. once you see those lights, when I did a traffic stop as an officer, the first thing I did was hit my lights. Right? I didn't even hit the siren yet. Most of the time, you don't have to hit the siren, right? You hit the lights. Right. That lets you know you got them flashing red lights behind you, police car. You need to start pulling over. You see what I'm saying? Now, it's reasonable to, okay, maybe there's a parking lot that's 100 yards up the road or something. You want to pull into the parking lot or something like that. That officer, that individual officer is going to have their own perception of whether or not are you trying to run or are you trying to find a place to pull over that you feel is safe, or are you excessively just driving along, not trying to stop with no rhyme or reason to it. You see what I'm saying?
And Zach made a good point. Fair, he yelling for his dad like he was fearing for his life, but running never makes it better. Exactly, Zach. I mean, you can yell for whoever you want, all you want. It still doesn't diminish from the actions he took.
Right. Hey, Zach. Hey, Tone. I see you, Tone.
Yeah. What's up, Tone? Long time no see, Tone. We miss you.
But at any rate, like you say, in the very beginning of this could have all been avoided had the 18-year-old just pulled over, stopped, took his ticket, moved on. I mean, that would have been it. Complied, answer questions, listen, and move on. None of this would have happened.
None of it would have
not been for this 18-year-old's actions. Now, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was
since it did happen, he decided to turn a simple traffic stop, minor traffic violation, into something way more, into a pursuit. He got to his house. Then he gets out of the car. You see officers with guns drawn on you. The reason why they got guns drawn on you, because once they perceive that this was now a pursuit, you just elevated in their mind who I'm dealing with. They don't know who you are. Like you said, Corey, I don't know if you just robbed somebody. Maybe it was something more serious that you did, which causes you to try to run from the police. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
People don't run just because they got a red light violation. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They run because they either got warrants or they just did something more serious. You see what I'm saying? The officer has to assume the latter until they work it back down and figure out what's going on here.
What's going on?
So they're going to meet you with some more intimidating force, like guns drawn, yelling commands, than they would if it was just a minor traffic stop. Because you turn it into something more.
Anytime I got into a pursuit and it got to the point where I made it stop. Now, always situation would dictate whether or not I pull my service weapon or not. But a lot of times, majority of times, it happens that way. I pull my service weapon out because I don't know what was the reasoning behind you taking me on a pursuit. And not only when you go on in pursuit, all the other people's lives you're endangering because you're failing to stop. Because like you said, Mike, for whatever reason, maybe they don't want to go back to jail. Maybe because they're suspended.
Right. Maybe it's something more. Maybe it's something more serious.
It's always something more serious. So yes, I know it doesn't look good. You see an officer drawing his weapon out on a young boy. I don't care who you are. You take me on a pursuit, you're endangering my life, you're endangering the public's life. If the situation dictates, yes, I will be getting out with my service weapon drawn. That's just the honest to God truth, because I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I'm gonna work my way back until I figure out what really is going on. I'm gonna be ready if there is something more serious going on. Zach made a good comment there, about how we end this fear in this newer generation. That's a good question, Zach, because I feel that that's an uphill battle, because you do have some cops that are doing bad stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure, you do have that. But I think the only thing, or the best place to start, is just educating citizens on why police do certain things. What might be in the mindset of an officer when they are doing certain things. Or if you take off from them, what is going to be in that officer's mind by you taking off from them? By you not complying, what is going to happen, or what could happen if you don't comply with what the officer is directing you to do? You see what I'm saying? So I think that's the best way to start is just education,
right?
And try to smash this perception that if you are black and you get stopped by the police, you're gonna be killed. Right. Okay, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah, we had to get rid of that, because I couldn't tell you how many times I stopped black people and they would say to me, well, thank God you black. And I would say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I ain't gonna get shot. I said, do something stupid, see if something don't happen. Right? Yeah, what difference does it make if you're doing? And this is why we want to get our program out there, staying calm and teaching people. You know what? You have a role to play too, America, with law enforcement. Right? We have to live and work together. Officers want to go home, and I didn't want to get in conflicts. Man, I'm too old to get out here and try to fight people on the side of the road for dumb stuff. Look, if you get pulled over, you stay calm, you comply. Whatever the officer instructs you to do, you do. Next, answer questions. They ask you questions, answer them honestly. Right? They ask you to do something, listen to what their instructions are, and then whatever the end result is, you move on. Whether it's getting a ticket or if you're going to jail, at least you're alive to.
Yeah, something more serious hasn't happened.
Exactly. So that's where we need to start. Like Mike said, the education, right? There's an expectation.
That's a good question, Zach.
Yeah, very good, Zach. Thank you. There's an expectation for law enforcement. We expect them to be a certain way, right?
Yeah.
But we also have to look at ourselves too, right? The citizens. What is expected of a citizen during a traffic stop? What is their role?
A lot of times, and another question is, what does the community expect for officers who deal with knuckleheads? How are you supposed to deal with a knucklehead? You see what I'm saying? Right. I think that's even a bigger question. You know what I'm saying? But let's get back to this video.
Yeah.
As we saw, the kid, the 18-year-old, he ends up, after he gets out of his car, you saw he had his hands up. Okay, that's great and all. But instead of stopping and getting down on the ground like these officers are commanding him to do, he tries to take off and run into his house screaming for his dad. You cannot just take off and try to get away like that. That's going to even make things even worse. So what is the response of those officers when they came up on him? Clearly, in their minds, they saw that he was trying to get away from them. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, he might have been screaming for his dad, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a person who fled from the police. He took off from me. I don't know who he is, what he's doing, whether he's got some serious warrants or something. I don't know how this red light violation turned into a chase towards someone's house. You see what I'm saying? Even those officers are trying to figure that out. Like, what's going on here that's causing this dude to take off from me? And we have to assume the worst until we work it back and figure out that what it really is.
So Mike,
go ahead, Corey.
I guess the $1 million question then is, what were some other alternatives you think the officers could have done instead of tackling him like that and tasing him?
Okay, that's a good question. You got to look at the totality of the circumstances that led up to this when they contacted him at the door. Okay, he clearly tried to run away from the police for whatever reason, whether he was afraid or whatever it was. Right? I actually believe it was because he was afraid, which is even worse. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
But he did what he did. Now, as an officer, in my mind, if I was chasing him, I once he gets to that door, yeah, you're right, Corey. I don't want you to get into that house because that's a extra environment. Maybe other people in that house that might hurt me or try to stop me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of other things that come into play once you make it to that door that I'm thinking about. So I'm going to go ahead, and once I get up to you, I'm going to put hands on you. And I'm not going to put hands on you nice. You just ran from me. I'm going to put hands on you in a way that I must control you, get you down on the ground, get you handcuffed. And once I get you handcuffed and secured in the back of my car, only then will I calm down and figure out what in the world is going on. Why'd you run?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's all about safety. To be safe, you have to grab this guy. You have to get him handcuffed above all. You see what I'm saying? And get him straight.
When you run like that, I mean, you don't leave very many options open for the officer. The officer is going to gain control of the situation.
Right.
And it is what you saw. That's their job, to gain control over the situation. Now, a taser is a lesser lethal weapon, and was it wrong for them to tase him? No, if you're not complying. I remember, officers are going to always be one up on you. Arrest and gaining control of a situation are not always pretty.
No,
right?
it really
when you're not complying, the arrest is never pretty. It's going to be taser used. It's going to be ABS used. It's going to be OC spray used if necessary.
Yeah.
But the officer is always going to be one up on you for their safety, right? So tasing, I'm okay with the tasing. Now, we didn't carry tasers, so I'd have just
we did. We carried tasers.
I'd have just been one up on you. I would have been hands up on you, or I would have used OC spray, and I have an ASP, right? Mm-hmm. The new version of the nightstick. Mm-hmm. I had an ASP. If I felt the need that I had to use the ASP to gain control, I would use the ASP, right?
And I think and what people don't understand, like you said, Corey, the ASP is a version of the baton. Basically, you are physically striking someone basically with a stick. That's what that is. Yeah. That is also considered less lethal force. My opinion, I think a taser is better than a ASP or a baton, because with a baton, I could break a bone. You see what I'm saying? A taser locks it sends an electric current through your body, locks your muscles up, and prevents you from being able to move. Does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. But it also locks you up to where you can't move. And a taser is less lethal force. In our department, when I carried a taser, we could use a taser if you weren't complying, if you were physically resisting. I could use a taser on you. The only time we couldn't use a taser is if someone was running away from us. We can't just shoot them with a taser as they're running. Reason being, if they fall, if they hit something as a result of us using that taser or something, that was the main reason why we didn't use the taser in that way. However, it's my understanding not all departments do that. Some departments do allow you to tase someone as they're running away. You see what I'm saying? But we had an incident that kind of changed our policy on that, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? We're always open to improvements. But in this case, they tased him, rightfully so. He was on the ground. Once they got him on the ground, he wouldn't put his hands behind his back again. He's just yelling and screaming and not trying to do anything that these officers are trying to get him to do.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about another part of the video that you saw. Let me see if I can try to pull it back up again. It's where you see the female officer. Let's see. I think I might have went too far. Hold on. They get him down to the ground. I think it's right here. I'm gonna play this part right here. Can you see that, Mike?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, let this part play out. I want to show you something. Now stop it.
Stop resisting, dude. Stop resisting. You're under arrest right now. You understand that? You're under arrest. Turn the fuck around. Put your hands behind your back.
Watch this. Watch this. Right there. Right there. You see her.
You mean when she was kneeling in the side?
Yeah, you see it now.
I saw that
again. I know y'all not gonna like that, but that is okay. That is called pain compliance.
It's like when you're trying to distract them to get them to do what you want them to do,
right?
Turning their attention to what you were doing as far as the pain that you causing and the waste. And causing, okay, let me let go of my hands and put my hands back or relax myself or whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Right. That is authorized.
The only time, and I know what you might say, but the only time I have a problem with, and I see this a lot with other agencies too, the punching and the kneeing and the kicking. The only time I have a problem with that is when they're doing it in the face and neck area. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You're
taught the proper technique. Right.
There's a proper technique.
You're taught that there's sensitive areas that they authorize you to do, and it's in the thigh, upper thigh, leg area where she was doing it, which is fine. I have no problem with that.
Right. In the thigh area. Right.
Because
now I'm not saying that there would never be an incident or an example where an officer there would never be an answer where the officer couldn't punch someone in the face. I don't want, that's not what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there could be a situation where an officer might feel that they got to punch somebody in the face or head. You know, if I'm being attacked or something like that, it's open season at that point. You see what I'm saying?
Again, everything is situational dictate. You know, and Zach makes a good point here. You know, now a lot of focus on how the suspect who ran and reacted. My thoughts as devil advocate is, what are our thoughts on how the female officer reacted? Yes, right there. Okay, so he caught where we were going with that. And yes, that's the need. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with it. I know some of you out there are going to have a heartburn for it. It always looks bad. But again, you know, this is real world. This isn't video game type stuff. The officers are always going to gain control of the situation, hands down. And this is why it's important to stay calm, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. You do these things, folks. Incidents like this shouldn't have to happen. When you try to deviate and go and take matters into your own hands, you can't use "I'm afraid." That's not going to get it. Judges aren't going to hear, well, I was afraid for my life, so I started to run from the police. No, judges ain't going to. No, you need to come up with something better than that. That's not going to fly in court.
Now, people also resisting. When you are resisting, what does that mean?
There you go.
Okay. Resisting means, it doesn't necessarily mean you are punching back or fighting the officers in the form of throwing blows or kicking. That's not necessarily. That's not the only way of resisting. Resisting also means if I tell you to put your hands behind your back and you are refusing to do so, that's resisting. If I am trying to grab your hands and I'm trying to pull them, or your arms or whatever I'm grabbing to try to pull them behind your back, and you are muscling against what I'm trying to do, that is resisting. Okay. And I would ask a citizen, what would you do in that situation if you're on top of someone and you got to handcuff them and they have their hands up underneath them and you are trying to pull their hands out from underneath them, but they are pulling against you and resisting that motion? What would you do? You see what I'm saying? Well, I'll tell you some things that officers would do. Pain compliance. You know, there are ways to pain compliance, or try to get a rear wrist lock, or something that would cause pain to throw their attention off of what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? Tasers are used for that. Okay, we lock your body up. A lot of times in past videos, though, I've seen officers who use tasers and they use it incorrectly. They tase them, and while they're tasing them, they just standing there and watching them, and they're commanding them to make moves. Well, you forget when you tase someone, your muscles are locked up. You can't move. Okay, not on your own accord. When you tase someone, the other officer should be down there and handcuffing the suspect as he's being tased. That is something that I see that is not properly used far too many times in other videos that I've seen. But at any rate, you know, that's what resisting is. Yeah, this kid was yelling, screaming. He was doing everything except just get on his stomach, put his hands behind his back, and be handcuffed. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And Stacey made it good.
There's nothing. And then the next thing in the video, what happens is the dad opens the door. It took the dad a long time to open that door. Surprising.
Right, hold on, Mike. Hold on. I just say, you know, Stacey made a good point. You know, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, she's gonna do what you need to do to get them handcuffed. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You're gonna do, the officer's gonna do what is necessary to get that individual in handcuffs. And again, the officer is always going to be one up on you. It's not a fair fight. It's not fair. I mean, so don't think it has to be that way. An officer and you get into a scuffle, the officer's going to be one up on you. They're going to gain control of the situation. So whatever within department policy and what is within reason. Again, key word is what is reasonable for an officer.
And if you've never been in a fight, you can't tell me you can't tell a person who's been in that situation what is reasonable and what's not. That's my opinion. If you ain't never been in a situation where you trying to handcuff a suspect on the ground who's trying to resist against you, you don't have enough insight to tell me what is reasonable. You see what I'm saying? Unless I'm taking an axe and chopping this kid's hands off or something, you know, I say that in extreme, obviously. You can't tell me that. Zach makes a good comment here too about the optics of 3 officers on one scared 18-year-old. Yeah, you're right. The optics don't look bad. But Zach, I'm gonna tell you, as the officers always feel the more the merrier, because I never want to go into a fight or try to handcuff a resisting suspect with just myself. Never would I do that. That's unsafe to do. If I can at all possible avoid that, I would definitely do that. I want my buddies, my cohorts, the guys that I'm working with to help me get this guy handcuffed. Again, we're trying to overpower you so that we can handcuff you. That's why you see more officers on him than just one guy. You see
also, what I'm saying? Too, Mike, it's also about safety, because if I know I'm in a struggle, you're right there. It's less likely for me getting hurt.
Right.
In that situation.
You got help. You got help. We look at it as
help, and the safer you can get that individual detained. Mr. Brown says, I understand what you're saying, but as Mike stated earlier, what the focus of today, the media is going to bypass the beginning of this video and focus on the female white officer kneeing the subject. Absolutely.
Yes, she is. I agree with you. That's what, you're right.
And now you see what my problem is with the media, because they take this whole thing out of context of what happened. And now we have a huge race issue. We have the hate the police are evil and wrong. And this is why Mike and I are doing what we're doing and telling you how reasonable officers should act based on 2 former law enforcement officers. And both of us have been in situations like these. The only thing we were blessed to not have to do was pull the trigger.
That's right.
But absolutely. I tell you, I come pretty doggone close a lot of times. And I thank God every day.
I've come close in my career of pulling the trigger too. Pulled my gun plenty of times.
But I agree with you on this.
Actually pulling that trigger one time where it was like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And it was a guy with a piece of glass that was getting ready to lunge, or had a stance like he was getting ready to lunge. And fortunately, somebody came behind him. Another officer came behind him and tased him, dry stunned him. Mm-hmm. This was when tasers, you know, some form of a taser was fairly new back then. You see what I'm saying? But it worked, and I didn't have to shoot the guy. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, just keep that in mind.
Here go now this gentleman here, Saul, Devin, he was one of my my trainees. I trained him. He says, news will post what they want and what will get the most rise out of people, no matter the situation. Yeah, Dev, that you're absolutely right, bro.
That's right.
That is to me, and I this is a non-political channel. We don't talk politics, but I believe, and I'll just leave it, just go as far as saying this. I believe that they just do this to keep some type of narrative going, to keep the hate between the general population, the citizens, and the law enforcement, so they can push their high agenda, which we already know, which is defund the police, whatever reason they want to defund the police for. But yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Dev. But hey, stay safe out there, man. I miss you guys. Hey, and I'm gonna tell you, shout out to him too, man. He's a good trooper. This is a good kid, man. I love him to death. I trained him, so you get stopped by him, you know, you messed up. Man. I trained him. He's a good dude, man.
Thanks for joining us there, Devin.
Thanks, man.
But you know, back to the video a little bit though. You also gonna have people say, "Wow, all of that for a red light violation?
Yeah.
All of that for a traffic violation?
Yeah,
that's what you're gonna have that too, right?" No, all of that wasn't for a traffic violation. I think you should ask the 18-year-old kid that question. You did all of that for a traffic violation? That's how, as an officer, I would be looking in this situation anyway. I would be looking at this 18-year-old like, wow, you caused all of that for, and all you did was run a red light. You could just pull it over, got a ticket, and that's the end of that. You see what I'm saying? No, he didn't. This wasn't all for a red light. This was all because he ran from the police, then tried to run into his house and was refusing to do what the police were telling him to do. That's why all this happened.
Here's a question for everybody now. Now you saw the reaction of the dad.
Yeah. The dad finally opened the door.
Yeah. Do you think it was appropriate for the officer to respond to the dad and what he did? You know what? Let me play that part just in case we got somebody jumped on here that hadn't seen the video. Let me share my screen and I'll play that portion of it with the dad comes up in there. And then we'll catch the end. Oh, here he goes. Let me back it up just a little bit. Check out the dad and the conversation between the dad and the officer.
Calm down. Everybody calm down. I'm sorry.
And what the dad said was, "What the fuck you tasing for?" That's what the dad says.
All right. So my question is, you know, what do you think about that part of it? You know, and another thing too, I've heard in one other video we did, Mike, somebody said the same thing, and I have to recall that video we did where somebody, it was the black guy, lieutenant, second lieutenant in the Army, when he said, you know, says I'm a veteran. Listen, folks, that stuff doesn't matter. I'm a vet too.
Not when you do stuff like this.
Right. Not when it comes to stuff like this. That don't matter. You know, you need to comply. Right. Now, the guy, I don't know if it was dark, but the dad had his right hand clenched in a fist. So that's why the officer said what he said to him. You know, you keep your fist like that, balled up like that, yeah, you're going to get to. Now, see, the officer has to think of that as a threat. And see, that's another example of why you can't let these individuals get into the house like that, because it's the fear of the unknown. What's behind that door we don't know about. All right, I think we got a question here.
Go ahead. And and for me, it's like, and Zach made a comment about that too, was over the top. It could have been over the top, Zach. I understand why somebody would think that. For me personally, if I was there and I see this dad opening the door, I'm probably not going to make the threat of you better calm down or you gonna get it too. However, that's just me personally. However, that doesn't mean I'm not now looking at this dad as a potential secondary threat now, because he is standing there, fist clenched, yelling at me like what the fuck you doing? Basically, what you doing to my son on his doorstep? He is now a potential threat to me if I'm trying to arrest his son. So even though I may not have thrown that threat out of you better back off or I'm gonna get it, you gonna get it too, I'm still looking at him and ready and waiting to make sure he doesn't do anything. What I would be saying is, sir, you need to step back, but I'll explain to you everything that's going on. Let me get your son secure. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna try to get that message across to him. And I'm glad that dad didn't jump in and try to do something, because that would have made things even worse.
Oh yeah, it have made it a very bad day. And that's why I was going to say I'm glad he closed the door when he did.
Yeah, it was actually more safe for him closing that door.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you think? I mean, Zach made a good point. I probably would have said something similar to what he said, because your adrenaline is so high, right? You get into a suit, you're in a fight. Words are going to come out. Arrests aren't pretty. I don't think I would want my mother to be around me on a lot of the arrests I had made and scuffles I had been in. She probably got some holy water and start throwing on me.
No,
it's. I mean, you're when you're out there, and for us, we're by ourselves. My ship partner could be 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away in another city, right? And when you're on those long dark roads and you're fighting, bruh, I don't give a crap. I'm using everything on the side of what I got on me and what I can pick up on the road and hit you upside the head. I'm fighting, because at the end of the day, Mike, what's the most important thing?
I understand if you fighting somebody and they trying to hurt you.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on. What's the most important thing for an officer to do?
Go home safe.
Go home safely. So if I had to, if I lose my ass because we wrestling around and I lose whatever, and I know it's not to the deadly force point yet, I don't have to pull my service weapon out, man. If I that brick sitting right there on the ground, I'm gonna put it upside your head, because I'm gonna gain control of the situation. I'm gonna gain control. Now I probably wouldn't hit you upside the head, but you get my point. It's not gonna be a fair fight. I'm going to win.
Right. Well, I will say this too, since you said fair fight. Cops don't get paid to fight fair. Okay, it's not about fairness. It's about getting control of you, getting you cuffed, and getting you at a point where we feel that you are safe from hurting me or hurting anybody else. That's it. You see what I'm saying? And people, you gotta when you gotta put your hands on someone, what we want to do is try to tell you what you need to do before so you don't never get to that point. You see what I'm saying? Right. An officer will never need to put their hands on you if you do what they tell you to do, when they tell you to do. You see what I'm saying? And understand this 18-year-old clearly didn't understand the seriousness of compliance in this situation. He didn't understand that, apparently, or maybe he didn't care, or like you said, the media and the way things are today has got this kid's perception that I'm gonna get hurt if I stop and deal with these police, and that's just not the case. You don't never do that. Never run. Always do what they tell you to do. If you are a young man and you see those flashing lights behind you, go on, pull over. No matter where you are, pull over. You're gonna be fine as long as you comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. You see what I'm saying? It's important for you to not get so afraid of what you think is going to happen and cause you to do something really stupid. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's really what it's about here is, you know, I think unfortunately you got a lot of 18-year-olds who has the thought process like this kid. Now, once they got, I thought it was interesting because once they got this kid handcuffed, got him in the back of the car, you know, naturally they're going to call medical over to get him checked out, which is common. Anytime we got into a physical confrontation with somebody, we called medical after we got them secured. You see what I'm saying? And he didn't seem to be, he really didn't think he did anything wrong. He thought that these officers did something excessive. He thought that it was unnecessary. And I didn't see, he made it unnecessary. The 18-year-old is the one that made this unnecessary. Right. Okay. Cops gonna use some bad language. You know what? When you fighting somebody on the ground, your emotions might get ahead of you. You just might use some bad language. I mean, language. If we talking about language here, you know, also keep this in mind. Cops deal with citizens who use way worse language than that on a regular basis. Okay. Oh yeah. So that's like a common thing in the environment of police officers working on the job. Is, you know, I you know, doing the job. Sometimes you hear citizens say, "Excuse my language," and I look at them and say, "Man, lady, I heard a lot worse." Or, "Ma'am, I heard a lot." Or, "Man, I heard a lot worse." You know, cops get called a lot worse too. So, you know, the language doesn't bother me as much. Although I will say, in a lot of situations, using foul language does look unprofessional. Okay, but if I need you to get down on the ground and I'm in a chase with you and you get out and I got my gun on you, I might say, get the F on the ground. You see what I'm saying? Because my adrenaline might be pumped up and I need you to make it clear that you understand what I'm telling you to do. That's all.
Well, and also too, situation is also going to dictate to the language that you use. Now, if I'm dealing with older people, yeah, I'm not going to use profanity. But if I'm dealing with young people in the hood where I know every other word they drop in the F-bomb, I'm going to get to your level to relate to you because I need you to do a specific thing.
I understand that.
So I will relate to you.
Kiana, I see your comment there, Kiana. Good comment.
Yep. I will relate to you. So yeah, I may use profanity in certain situations. Depends on who I'm dealing with. But you know, again, back to the father, I probably would have used a little different tact than that. I probably wouldn't, you know, threaten with the well, I know I wouldn't have threatened with a taser because we didn't carry tasers. So I would just, you know, hey, sir, just step back. I'll be with you in just a minute. Your son is under arrest, however. All right. And then let them get him off. But again, to your point, fast forwarding towards the end of the video, the kid had like he had no remorse, like you said, Mike, like he was the one that was wrong. Or he was not wrong.
The officers were yeah, he was acting like the officers were overboard, unnecessary. And I'm here to tell you, these 18-year-olds, if you're running from the police, you're going to cause the situation to be elevated. You're causing it, not because of a traffic stop. This was because you took off and then tried to run into the house. That's what that's for. The young folks, please, 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 if there's anything you take from this, is make sure you stop. It ain't nothing gonna happen to you. You're gonna be talked to. You might get a ticket at the most. You're gonna be released. That's the end of that. Ain't the majority of the time, this perception that I'm gonna get killed if I get stopped by the police, you got to squash that. That's a bad perception.
Yeah, and again, that's the whole point of our acronym CALM, right? Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. If you do these things,
go ahead, Tori.
I was gonna say, if you do these things, what you're doing is taking the opportunity for that officer to do something stupid, to make a mistake, to harm you in such a way. So if you're doing these things, you're making it hard for them to do that. So it's what we call killing with kindness. Right? If you're wrong, you're wrong. Don't argue on the side of the road. That's not where you do this at. You take it to court. That's where you fight it in your battle at, in court, not on the side of the road. So when you're taking that power away from them, especially if you get an officer that may be, a hothead, and we know there's bad officers out there. We're not saying they're not. And so by staying calm, complying, answering their questions, listening and moving on, you're taking that opportunity, that chance for them to do something that is going to make the situation worse. You're taking that opportunity away from them by staying calm. Is it always going to be that way? No, because we don't know the type of officer you're going to get, but we do know you do these things, you're lessening the chance of something bad happening to you. And that's all we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, long as you ain't running 100 miles an hour from the cops, long as you ain't trying to do things that's illegal, you ain't got to worry about that. I'm sorry, you just ain't. That is not something you got to worry about.
No.
Now, that being said, if there is a different way, a better way to do something, as an officer, me and Corey, we be the first to tell you, hey, let me know. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure.
Are we against training that improves certain contacts? Like in this situation, if there is a better way that these officers could have handled this situation, as far as training and the kind of tactics that they use, I'm always open to that. I've always been open to that in my career. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, I'm not sitting up here saying, oh, it has to be done this way and that's the end of that. You see what I'm saying? Now, some things have to be done a certain way when it comes to safety. And when it comes to securing a suspect, I want to be able to do that. But I remember just on pursuits, we had done some training about, we watched a lot of videos of police pursuit. And you know how the end of a pursuit, the officers would rush up to the car and grab the guy out of the car. We used to do training to look at a better way to do that. If you just get into a pursuit, maybe not everybody rushing up to the car and making commands from where you are, So that's just an example of other ways of trying things out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But bottom line is sometimes it don't always work out like that.
It don't. It doesn't.
And the citizens' actions dictate what that officer is going to do. That's correct. Always big.
Correct. That's very important. That is so important. Stacy says, I love what you two are doing, showing people when the police are right and wrong from your points of view. Thank you so much, Stacy. I mean, that's what this show is all about. It's just giving you our perspective as two former reasonable officers of what we would do in certain situations.
And I know
it's not always going to be pretty, but
right.
You know what I mean? So,
I know we've been on here for a minute. Real quick though, Corey.
Go ahead.
Some new stuff came up on that. We did a show on that Ronald Green a couple months ago. The guy got into a 100-mile-an-hour chase, and there was a Louisiana police officers.
Yeah.
And we did a video on that.
Yeah.
But just recently, I had seen some pictures of Ronald Green's head and area. Looked like there was a lot more blows to the head than what we saw on that video initially. Remember, they was hitting him in the side and stuff. So we might do another show to follow up with that, to give you another opinion of that, or a follow-up opinion of that. I'm sorry. Because like I said earlier, Corey, I definitely don't agree with officers punching and kicking in the head in the process of trying to handcuff someone. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, when we did that show 2 months ago, that video that we saw, that the one that we saw anyway, that we showed.
Let's answer Tone's question here before we dip off, because I think this is a good one. Mr. Brown says, thought he was 18. He was 18. A lot of crimes are committed by teens younger than 18. I know you can't answer, but where are the parents? It all begins at home. Seems like officers become truant officers.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my take on it, Mike. And that's the number. This would always be the number one question I would get from older black gentlemen when I be at my little coffee shop, take my break, drink my coffee. they would always come up and say, "Hey, trooper, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes, sir. Come on, you can be in my ear." And they would say, "What's wrong with these kids out here today, trooper?" I said, "Sir, if I knew, I'd give you an answer." But the problem is, it's the broken homes. I think a lot of kids aren't getting structure at home. Um, it's a lot of factors, Tone. I mean, and you're right. The officer becomes deterrent officer. You know, it starts at home and it goes into the schools where you take power away from the teachers, the discipline from the teachers. You're taking the discipline away from parents. You know, because you make it easier now for the kids to call CPS on the parents. And rightfully so, because they're bad parents out here to do bad things to the kids, and I get that, but there ought to be a level of discernment on what parents do. I mean, you have to be able to give your children instruction and guidance. That's what they need at that young age, and then they grow up without it. And here we are with all these problems, Tone. I mean, it starts at home. We have to get our family structure back intact again, I believe. What you say, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of that too. However, I also say there are a lot of kids who are raised with single parents too that don't do this type of ain't crazy. I also think a lot of the Tone is the culture today. This culture of, especially the culture with the bad police incidents that have happened, just being focused on in the media versus the good stuff. You see what I'm saying? That has caused a perception amongst this newer generation that I don't need to listen to the cops. These cops are wrong. The cops are the enemy. So that's another thing. And this whole hustling type, fast money kind of generation of, I don't need to do this, or I don't need to work, or I don't need to go to school, or I don't need to do these things to be successful. I think a lot of these kids today want fast money. They think that you can just shoot to the top just like that by whatever means necessary. And, I don't know how you combat that. I'm too old to combat that. I mean, I could just try to talk to people and tell them what cops do and why cops do it, or whether I think it's good, right or wrong.
Hey, we appreciate you too, Kiona. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody. I know we should be wrapping it up, Corey. We've been on this thing for a minute.
We go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. But we appreciate you guys so much. Please don't forget to shoot over to YouTube and like and share and subscribe to our channel, Brothas-in-law, BROTHAS-IN-law, and like, share, and subscribe if you're watching us on Facebook tonight. If you're already on YouTube watching us, please hit that like button. That helps us out with the algorithm to get our message out there to a broader audience. And we love you guys. We thank you so much for watching. And again, if you want to just all y'all know our numbers. So if you got a question you want to carry this conversation on, please reach out to us, man. We Mike, this is what we do. We love talking about police stuff. It's always going to be in our blood. So again, we thank you. And we'll be back next Thursday at 8 o'clock. So tell a friend, tell a loved one. Let's get in here and talk. We talk about calm and staying calm. And
hey, Corey, you was in school with Kiana, so don't act like you don't know.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's my homie from way back, man. That's my sister. All right. Hey, we love y'all. Have a great weekend. And we'll see y'all next week.
Peace out.
Peace.